Opening credits. Ava and Carol Detective Agency. The Mystery of Solomon's Ring. Chapter 10. Santa Florian del Fuoco. After catching their breath in their hotel room, the girls hurried over to the desk. Carol stood beside Ava as she grabbed the desk chair and knelt on top of it. "Okay," said Ava excitedly. "Let's see what all of this craziness is about." Anticipation raced through Carol, making her hands fidget with excitement. Ava pulled the copper cylinder from her pocket. It was the length and diameter of an ink pen. The ends were sealed with what looked like red wax. Ava gently shook the tube while holding it up to her ear. Nothing. "It looks like the ends are sealed with wax," offered Carol. Ava nodded. She grabbed a paper clip from a stack of her mom's papers on the desk and straightened it. Carefully, she worked the wax out of the tube. Ava turned the cylinder over, holding her hand out beneath it in case something came out. The two held their breath. They knew, without speaking, that whatever the cylinder held, it was their best chance of finding out what to do next. Ava tapped the open end of the cylinder on her palm. There was the slightest rattle, and then a small, brittle scroll slid into her hand. Ava offered it to Carol, who picked it up gingerly. She spread it out between her fingers before flattening it against the desk. It was hard to read, the words scrawled in slanted cursive with blotted ink. It was also hard to read them because they were written in what looked to Carol like Latin. "What's it say, Big Brain?" inquired Ava. "I'm not sure. I think it's written in Latin." "There's also a map," pointed out Ava. A very roughly hand-drawn map lay below the mysterious writing. "1 second," said Carol, as she retrieved her tablet from beside her bed. She opened Google Translate and typed the words "Posizionare il rotolo solitare della luce." Carol's eyes narrowed. "Place the scroll upon the altar of light." "Okay, this gets weirder and weirder," moaned Ava. "Let me guess. The map is supposed to lead us to the altar of light?" "I think so," said Carol, studying the map. "I wish some divine bearded guy would just come out from the clouds, point a finger, and say, 'Hey you, go there.'" Carol nodded. "There is a shortage of divine bearded guys, that's for sure. But we do have the next best thing." "A map that looks like it was drawn on an Etch-a-Sketch?" laughed Ava. "Whoa, that was retro. I'm pretty sure that this is the Villa de Cathedral where we found the scroll. And if we follow this line through the city, it leads to... It leads to... Is that Italian?" "Well," said Carol, thinking, "according to the map, it leads to something called the Santa Florian del Fuoco." "Santa Florian? Is that Santa's cousin?" "I think Santa means saint. Give me a second," said Carol as her fingers tapped away on her tablet. "This doesn't make sense. It says Saint Florian is the patron saint of chimney sweeps and firefighters. He died in 304 AD. "You're kidding, right? Chimney sweepers get their own saint?" "Apparently, Del Fuoco means of fire. So this is a church named after a saint who guards chimney sweeps and firefighters." "Maybe it's some kind of clue and we're just missing it," said Ava. "It says to place the scroll on the altar of light, maybe it really means altar of fire. I don't know. Where is the church exactly? I'll need to consult Signore Google Map, Carol said. After Googling, she looked at Ava with a confused expression. I can't find anything on Google for a church or building named Santa Florian del Fuoco. Okay, said Ava, pointing at the map. What is that thing? It could be another landmark. It looks like a bird or an airplane. Wait, maybe it's an airport, said Carol. It has 3 words in Italian beneath it. Aquila di Dio. Aquila? Something to do with water and God? Guessed Ava. A water god. Noah? The clue is in the ark. Slow down, laughed Carol. Okay, first of all, Aquila has nothing to do with water. It means eagle. But if we put it all together, the phrase translates to Eagle of God. On a whim, Carol searched Eagle of God, Florence. I never knew God had an eagle, mused Ava as Carol typed. I thought that was just an American bird. I found it! It's a statue. And according to our lovely hand-drawn map, the statue is directly across from the Santa Florian del Fuoco. We just need to find that statue. Awesome, big brain. You're brilliant. Ava's mom buzzed, startling her. My mom, blurted Ava, nodding at the phone. She says that she's looking forward to spending the afternoon with us. Ava quickly texted her back, letting her know that everything was awesome and that she and Carol were excited about spending the afternoon with her. She finished off with, I love you, and a half-dozen heart emojis. So if my mom's going to be here soon, we've got to get moving. Unfortunately, we can't just leave. Rossi and his mutants? Rossi and his mutants, confirmed Carol, nodding. Plus, I don't think we've endeared ourselves to the hotel staff. The fire extinguisher, the kitchen, the vase in the lobby, the decorative bowl filled with marbles in the hallway. Okay, I get your point. We're probably not their favorite guests. What about one of the fire escape doors? There's one at the end of our hall. And what if we open it and it sets off the alarm? They're gonna kick us out of the hotel for sure. Well, if we can't take the stairs and we can't take the elevator, how do you suggest we get downstairs? Teleport? You actually had a brilliant plan. 2 words, smiled Carol. Fire. Escape. You just said that the doors for the fire escape probably have alarms. They probably do, laughed Carol as she grabbed her jacket. Follow me. I've got a trick up my sleeve you're gonna love. Ava watched as Carol slid the paper scroll into the tube and put it in her pocket. She turned to Ava and smiled. Alrighty, let's wrap this mystery up. I'm starving. Chapter 11. Fire. I hate heights. You know I hate heights. Just don't look down, warned Carol moments after climbing out of the window at the end of their hotel hallway. She stood on a narrow, metal-grated platform that jutted out from the side of the hotel. Despite the handrails, Ava was petrified. Ava slowly crawled out the window and stood shaking beside her friend. She closed her eyes as a wave of vertigo washed over her. She gripped the side of the hotel as her knees buckled. Breathe, Carol advised in a soothing voice. Breathe through your nose. I'm gonna punch you in the nose, hissed Ava. Ava looked at the platform of twisted black metal. She could see the ground some 60 feet below through the grated floor of the platform. Right now, gasped Ava, the angry hotel staff seems like a much better option.
Look, there's a platform between each set of stairs.
Carol counted 10 stairs between each platform.
Just take it one section at a time.
Ava nodded. One set of stairs at a time. Carol descended slowly, watching as Ava turned and climbed down the stairs on her hands and knees like a child. She felt horrible for Ava. She could see her entire body trembling as she slowly made it down each platform.
Okay, Carol said softly. This is our last stop. I just need to lower this ladder down, and it will take us down to the ground.
Ava watched silently as Carol lowered the huge metal ladder. It was connected to a pulley system that made a screeching noise like fingernails on a chalkboard as it lowered. The ladder clunked noisily to a stop about a foot from the ground. Carol grimaced.
Okay, Aves, we gotta hurry.
Ava nodded and carefully followed Carol down the ladder, her sneakers making a thump as she landed. Carol bumped her shoulder gently and smiled.
You made it.
I did, smiled Ava proudly, feeling the color return to her face. But I think I may need a new pair of underwear.
Too much information, laughed Carol. Now seriously, we have to go.
The girls ran along the side of the hotel, careful to take in their surroundings and make sure they weren't being followed. The map took them on a journey through alleys and narrow roadways, twisting and turning like a serpent. Perhaps it was the triumph of getting away from the bad guys and finding the scroll, but there was a zing in the air between the two girls. Or maybe the zing in the air was real. Ava suddenly screeched to a halt.
Do you smell that? What is it?
Asked Carol, confused. She followed Ava's trembling finger. A street vendor was tossing a disk of dough high into the air. He was making fresh pizza. Carol felt her stomach grumble. It had been hours since their last meal.
Pizza,
whispered Ava.
Italian pizza right in the middle of the street.
The girls ordered 2 pieces of sizzling hot pepperoni pizza and then found a small wooden bench under the shade of a beautiful oak tree. The girls moaned with each delicious bite of pizza. Okay, change to our plans, said Ava as she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. You continue on to the burning altar thing. I'll stay here and keep the pizza guy company and an eye out for the bad guys. I'll text you if I see anything suspicious.
You're such a good friend,
smiled Carol as she wiped the grease off of her fingers. She studied the map and then stood up to get her bearings. So, how much further, fearless leader? Ava asked.
It actually looks like we're almost there.
Okay, let's get going. We've got to beat my mom back to the hotel. We're already in enough trouble. The girls continued their trek through the city, snaking down a long, winding alley. This part of the city didn't look as friendly. Trash littered the alley, and graffiti was splashed across rows of buildings as if they were brick canvases. Carol held up her hand, and they halted. She looked up from the map.
Here?
She exclaimed, her voice filled with confusion. Neither spoke for a second. Ava felt the wind rush out of her. A massive wave of disappointment enveloped Carol, and she felt herself sag.
Oh, man.
She looked at the map and pointed.
This has to be right. See, the statue of the giant eagle, it's over 300 years old. It was supposed to be right beside the statue.
Carol jabbed her finger at the map.
See?
Ava looked, and sure enough, directly across the square named Santa Florian del Fuoco, was a poorly drawn eagle, but an eagle nonetheless. But what lay in front of them was a huge expanse of land filled with rubble. No kidnapped old man, no magical protectors, and definitely no altar of light. One sec. Frustrated, Ava marched up to the first person she saw, a mustachioed man tending to the tires of his bike.
Sir, parley inglese?
Ava asked, doing her best not to butcher the Italian language. He nodded, stood up, and dusted his hands off on his jeans.
My friend and I are trying to find the Santa Florian del Fuoco. Do you know where it's located?
The man pulled at the end of his mustache, chuckling. Ava stared at him, confused. Maybe she'd said it wrong? She tried again.
Maybe I misspoke. I'm looking for the Santa Florian del Fuoco.
She over-enunciated each word, hoping that would help.
Ah, little girl,
he said in a thick Italian accent.
I think...
Wait,
said Carol, interrupting him. She held out the scroll to him.
It's a map,
she said.
We found it in a library book,
she fibbed, not wanting to give him too much information. He took it from her, then narrowed his eyes at the drawing.
Ah, povere ragazze.
He tried to contain his chuckles.
I don't know who wrote this for you, but someone has played a joke on you girls. There is no Santa Florian de Fuoco. Santa Florian of Fire? He laughed. This building does not exist.
St. Florian did exist,
Ava insisted.
He was the patron saint of firefighters and chimney sweeps.
That may be,
smiled the man gently, seeing the girls were truly upset.
But,
he continued,
the rubble you see behind you, this was the old firehouse. It was nearly 200 years old, but an earthquake damaged it so badly that the city was forced to tear it down.
Ava looked at Carol incredulously.
This was a firehouse, not a church? This was all some kind of crazy joke? Are we being punked?
Carol shook her head.
Saint of firefighters. I can't believe it.
Well, said Ava, turning and motioning at the rubble behind her.
From the looks of the building behind us, it looks like St. Florian called in sick. Thank you, sir.
The man nodded and waved as he wheeled his bike away.
Good luck on your adventure.
Carol and Ava sat down on the curb of the street. The same thoughts swirled around their heads. There was no way this was all a joke. A man had been brutally kidnapped, a woman's store destroyed. Men had chased them through their hotel. There was just no way this was an elaborate joke.
We're missing something,
Carol sighed. She looked at the map. Why would it lead them to a place that didn't actually exist? Aggravated, Carol rolled up the map, but as she went to insert it into the cylinder, she dropped it onto the dusty road.
Great,
she said, picking it up and blowing the dust off the container. She froze. The dust revealed a tiny inscription at the top. Ava stood and brushed off the seat of her pants.
What is it? I don't know. There's something written on it.
Carol turned the tube. The writing was so tiny she could barely read it.
Let me guess,
said Ava.
This and up?
No, said Carol, squinting.
It looks like I Corinthians 3:13.
Isn't that a book from the Bible? Ava asked.
I think so.
Ava was already swiping away at her phone. 1st and 2nd Corinthians were written by someone named Paul and are in the New Testament. What did the inscription say again?
There's an I in front of Corinthians and then 3:13.
Okay, acknowledged Ava.
Wait, you said there was a Corinthians 1 and 2, right?
Ava nodded. Yes.
Okay, so the I could be the Roman numeral for 1. So it would be 1 Corinthians 3:13. The numbers after Corinthians would be the chapter and the verse. How many chapters are in 1 Corinthians?
Ava's fingers quickly tapped on her phone.
16. So it has to be chapter 3, and the second 2 numbers would be verse 13.
Already on it, said Ava excitedly. She looked at her phone and then looked back at Carol. She cleared her throat. Every man's work shall be made manifest. It shall be revealed by fire. Ava looked up at her best friend. What does manifest mean? Ava could tell that Carol's big brain wheels were turning as she began chewing on her lower lip.
Manifest,
Carol smiled,
means to display or show something.
Carol's mind was going a mile a minute. Every man's work shall be made manifest, because it shall be revealed by fire. Carol's eyes flew open.
We gotta get back to our room. We need to start a fire, stat.
If you're enjoying Thomas Lockhaven's audiobook content, please like and subscribe. It's the best way to help out the channel.